Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Patreon-sponsored review time again. We all know how I feel about several of the DC films made to compete with the MCU. Man of Steel? God-awful. Batman v Superman? Shockingly better than Man of Steel, but not by much, and I know my opinion is a minority there. The other films are a mixed bag, with several I haven't seen, and some I know by reputation as being as bad as those first two outings. But hey, there were some surprisingly good ones in there. Blue Beetle, while changing a few elements from Jaime's original premise, like aging up the characters a bit, retained the heart and legacy of the hero and was overall pretty damn good. But the other really great one that I don't think anyone expected to be so good? The Suicide Squad!
This is Katana! She's got my back!
Not that one. The James Gunn-helmed one. And sure, James Gunn had already proven he could make a misfit team of mostly lesser-known characters work with the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but Guardians at least had the rest of the MCU being a success to buoy it. If it had been a failure, oh well. James Gunn's The Suicide Squad had to be a success despite not only the earlier DC Cinematic Universe failures, but also having to build off a film from 5 years back that, while financially successful, was critically lambasted. So naturally, the exact opposite occurred with this film. Box office disappointment, but critical praising. Myself among them. The Suicide Squad is legitimately a good movie, and you really don't need to have seen the first to get it, since I certainly didn't. And unfortunately, today's review is a spin-off of this movie, so I have to give spoilers. Time code on screen if you want to skip the brief summary, since it does reveal plot points. Amanda Waller sends the Suicide Squad, consisting of Bloodsport, King Shark, Polka Dot Man, Ratcatcher 2, and Peacemaker, into the fictional nation of Corto Maltese to destroy a laboratory run by the supervillain known as the Thinker and his current experiment, Project Starfish. Along the way, they rescue Rick Flag and Harley Quinn to complete the mission. Once inside, they learn that Project Starfish is actually Starro the Conqueror, who was brought to Earth and experimented on, and these experiments were actually funded by the US government.
I'm the government, I'm the government, I'm the reason nothing works.
Rick Flag wants to expose this, but it turns out Peacemaker is under orders to cover up their involvement and kills Rick Flag. Peacemaker is supposedly killed, and the squad are ordered to leave as Starro escapes and starts a rampage. They disobey, and it's only thanks to Waller's subordinates helping them that their heads aren't exploded and they're able to stop Starro. What makes it work is that despite the over-the-top violence, goofy situation, and ridiculous personalities, it has legitimate heart, emotional resonance, and pathos in the behaviors of the characters. It's what James Gunn excels at. In the post-credit scene, it's revealed that Peacemaker survived, leading us to our spin-off. Peacemaker, in case you didn't recall, is one of the Charlton heroes along with the Ted Cord Blue Beetle. I admit, his performance in this was a little disappointing. Not that it was bad, but rather making him a jingoistic villain. I get why it was done. Peacemaker's always been a bit of a sillier Charlton hero with his "I love peace so much I'm willing to fight for it" catchphrase, but I best recall him in the comics for his time mentoring Jaime Reyes and Blue Beetle, and obviously we're not going to get that version of him now. Regardless, it was a very entertaining, charismatic performance thanks to his actor. And his name is John Cena! And enough of that. I've mentioned this before, but unlike so many of my colleagues, I don't actually care about wrestling. So for me, John Cena has just been this weird dude who occasionally shows up in movies as a kind of larger-than-life personality on his own, less The Rock and more Mr. T. And it's not that he's bad at acting. The Suicide Squad showed that his super serious attitude could be used for both humor and menace. It's just one of those cases where it can be hard for me to see him playing a character rather than just adds John Cena. But that's neither here nor there. In 2022, HBO Max got their first DCEU TV series with Peacemaker, and a patron wants me to check it out. So let's dig into the first 2 episodes of Peacemaker and see if I like this series as much as I like the Suicide Squad movie.
Atop the fourth wall, where bad comics burn. Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. What's with these awkward subjects? What's all this art so rubbish? To anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn.
After a recap of the movie, we start off episode 1, A Whole New World, with us learning that despite all the damage he took in the film, the only permanent damage Peacemaker took was to his clavicle bone, which needs to be replaced. And are you even really still a superhero if that's the case? She tells him that this will mean he'll be discharged, but this actually gets him worried, and he speaks to his best buddy and confidant, this janitor who he smoked weed with at some point. This is not a joke, or at least not mine. It's a standard modern comedy back and forth where the characters go on weird diversions from the main point. Like the weed thing. The janitor saying, "Dude, you can't trust me. All we did was share weed. You don't even know my name." Which in turn leads to him revealing he's a superhero. The janitor hasn't heard of him. Which consequently is kind of weird, isn't it? That the first DC Cinematic Universe show is from a D-list hero? I don't know, maybe it's leftover bias from the days when TV was seen as an inferior medium to movies, so they save all the big names like Superman or Wonder Woman from movies only. But still, you'd think they'd have gone for it if only to have that much more incentive to sign up for the streaming service. Anyway, the bit and its diversions going on, including whether Peacemaker is racist because of who he's killed before, as well as to Aquaman.
Aquaman fucks fish?
Yeah.
Who knew he was Troy McClure? Point of all this is he expects to go back to prison and asks whether there are any guards or security people nearby, and nope. As such, he quickly changes and runs out to a cab, seemingly free, though one of the nurses texts that he's on his way. That has nothing to do with Peacemaker, though. Turns out DoorDash messages aren't automated, and she has to keep telling customers the status of their drivers. This leads us to the much-beloved theme song, where the whole cast dances to Do You Want to Taste It by the band Wigwam. It sets the tone for the show, everyone acting super serious in their faces, but doing something ridiculous in the process. James Gunn said that this was to establish that it was a different kind of superhero show, which I just find kind of head-scratching. While there might be a stereotypical expectation of what a superhero show would be, when the previous year brought out a superhero show about psychological trauma and grief filtered through various sitcom styles through the decades, I don't think It's Kinda Goofy is that different a take on the genre. But who the hell cares? It's fun. I'm betting the ninja-style dancer is already practicing this dance. Anyway, we return from the theme song to meet Kia and Leota, a couple moving into a motel room as Leota has gotten a new job as part of a spy agency, though she says it's just menial tasks, filing paperwork and all. Just as well, there are people you really don't want to work beside as field agents.
I want to fly the plane!
Leota gets a text about Peacemaker having left the hospital, while Peacemaker himself arrives at his home, a trailer park, and has no money to pay the taxi driver.
What's in the bag?
This? Oh, the hospital let me keep my clavicle. Actually, it's the Peacemaker helmet, which he gives up. After having to break into the trailer due to lacking his keys, he checks his phone messages to learn that he was getting multiple from an old friend, Vigilante, a character who has had many different iterations over the years, and whom here keeps asking him to come fight crime with him. However, before he can deal with any of that, he's held at gunpoint by agents of Argus, a quasi-military organization that Amanda Waller runs, and whom Leota is a part of, wherein she gives an embarrassing speech about being so happy to be on the team. He thinks that he should be free, that he did the job asked of him, which involved shooting Rick Flag.
Made the only choice I could.
Funny for you how often the only choice in killing people coincides.
Hey now, he offered Rick Flag his helmet, but that man didn't understand high fashion. Their leader, Clemson Mern, explains that Peacemaker still has a long amount of his prison sentence that needs to be made up for, so he's going to continue working for them. Or he'll go back to prison. Or they'll have the bomb they implanted in him so he won't go rogue explode. There are pros and cons to all the options. They're gonna meet for dinner later, but Peacemaker needs to swing by his dad's place first to pick up his sidekick, Eagle-E. Keeping my fingers crossed that it's actually Detective Heart of America. His dad, played by Robert Patrick, is a complete asshole and is rather disinterested that his son is out of prison and was in the hospital for several months. Still, we learn that Eagle-E is indeed a bald eagle that somehow lives here as a pet, and is in fact so loving that it actually hugs Peacemaker. That's incredible. We check in with the Argus team as they move into their less-than-ideal headquarters. I know the job is supposed to be punishment for helping Task Force X in the movie, but they're still government agents. Wouldn't you want them to at least have proper facilities so that something doesn't screw up? Peacemaker manages to bond with his dad for a moment when he talks about how Bloodsport from the Suicide Squad movie had a phobia of rats because his dad used to torture him with one. He laughs at this information because he is a horrible person. Further, he asks if Bloodsport was the one who shot him, even calling him the F-slur. It's his happy, dreamy, compassionate personality that makes this man such a pillar of the community. So just to pile on the T-1000 reasons to hate his dad, he's also racist, but he does have some kind of pocket dimension in his closet that contains spare equipment for Peacemaker, including helmets with various abilities he could utilize. He arrives to dinner in a new costume because he has no sense of tact or secrecy. Well, okay, he says it's because it's his uniform, but still. In any case, they hand him the dossier on his first target, a U.S. senator who's apparently a threat to national security. They also spot a busboy grinning at him with even less subtlety than him. He claims it's just the brother of someone he knows. But then the busboy goes behind the restaurant. It's Adrian Chase, aka the Vigilante.
Get my little tush out. It's my famous butt dance, my butt dance, my butt dance.
In the comics, this guy was a district attorney and later a judge. Peacemaker and Leota get a little bonding moment in the parking lot, where we also learn that he doesn't trust Myrn. Primarily, it's because he's a former mercenary who would also work for America's enemies. I wouldn't trust him either. He was the High Evolutionary over in the MCU, one of the most punchable supervillains of all time. Peacemaker spots Harcourt, one of the Argus agents, go into a bar while driving around and follows her in, hoping to hit her up for a one-night stand. However, she angrily rejects him, just like some assholes who try to hit on her. Well, not the same, she beats the crap out of one of them. Instead, Peacemaker goes and has sex with this woman and her incredibly 80s punk hair. And man, I would not have guessed that a Patreon-sponsored review would feature a naked John Cena humping a naked woman from behind, boobs fully exposed, while he yells, "Freedom!" at the top of his lungs. But this is my life now. Of course I'm not going to show it, even censored. What is wrong with you? We learn that Leota is, in fact, Amanda Waller's daughter, and was placed on the team by her deliberately with a different secret agenda. Still, while she's professional enough about it, she doesn't really want to be there, just taking the job to make some money to allow her and her wife some stability before they get a better job. Back at the woman's apartment, Peacemaker finds the woman's record collection and puts on a Choir Boys album. With that reference and her hair, are we sure she's not actually a time traveler?
I was having a crazy fucked up day, but when I was in your pussy back there, I felt, I don't know, fucking hope.
Peacemaker, master of pillow talk. John Cena's musical career was underappreciated in its time. Aside from suddenly being strong and agile, she starts screeching at him in an inhuman voice and trying to murder him. The fight eventually gets outside, where he uses the sonic boom function on his helmet to pulverize her and the surrounding area. Eagerly leaves him a dead possum, then cozies up to him. Friendship goals. That ends the first episode, aside from a comedic post-credit scene, and we move into the next. Best friends for never. Peacemaker calls Harcourt and informs her of what happened. He's heading up to retrieve his stuff from the woman's apartment while Harcourt grabs Leota to drive.
You're driving. Peacemaker just killed a damn butterfly.
Okay, so, like, a real butterfly or some kind of butterfly monster? This is the DC universe, so it could be either or. Unfortunately, as you may have noticed, Peacemaker is kind of an idiot and a douchebag, so after he gets dressed, he decides to also steal a bunch of crap from the woman's apartment. Her panties, the albums, some cookie cutters for some reason. Note to self, Atop the Fourth Wall themed cookie cutters as merch this Christmas? However, his looting does uncover a strange device with glowing symbols on it. Don't worry, Peacemaker, it's just her wireless router. The cops spot Peacemaker in the apartment and go up after him. With the cops coming up, he has to flee to the next floor and breaks into an apartment with a couple already inside. Threatening them with a knife, they agree to help, though the couple bickers quite a bit, particularly as Peacemaker and the woman bond over their love of the band Cinderella. I would ship it, but it's clear Peacemaker is already in a committed relationship with Freedom. What? I said I wouldn't show it. Audio's fine. With Harcourt's help, he's able to escape out the back of the building. John Economos, the tech of the Argus team, changes the car registration for Peacemaker's destroyed vehicle to his father, something that Myrn berates him for since they want Peacemaker to trust them. Well, he might be more inclined to trust you if you weren't constantly insulting him, berating him, and just generally making it clear that you despise him. I don't know, maybe I'm just old-fashioned like that. When the two police detectives, Song and Fitzgibbon, go to question Peacemaker's dad, he's just racist for a minute and says the car belongs to his son. And it seems the cops already know who Peacemaker is. Back at HQ, they patch up Peacemaker's injuries and wonder how one of the butterflies knew to attack Peacemaker. At first thinking that one of them might be a mole, either for the butterflies or for Amanda Waller, since she also has a terrible tendency to sacrifice her own people for a larger goal. However, Peacemaker suddenly recalls that he spotted her flipping through the dossier he had been given after he returned from the bathroom. While Myrn at first is pissed that he didn't just drop off the dossier at home first, Peacemaker points out that nobody has told him anything about this mission other than they're killing people or why it's important, or even what the butterflies are. And unfortunately, we're not learning just yet, since Peacemaker goes back to his trailer and has a breakdown about how everything has gone wrong and how he pushes everyone away.
Flag was right. Peacemaker. What a joke.
One thing I like about these two episodes is that we really get a multifaceted look at Peacemaker. Yes, he's kind of naive, kind of goofy, kind of lacks a filter, and that leads to comedy, but we also see that one of the reasons for his attitude is that he wants to be taken seriously. He puts on a serious attitude about things that are kind of silly or offbeat and doesn't recognize that there's something of a humorous angle to it. He calls his outfit a uniform and takes his job deadly seriously, but the closest person to actually take him seriously is his awful, awful father, who might insult him, might get angry or annoyed at him and demonstrate no love, but it's always from a position of also being super serious and is placing expectations on him that he in turn wants to live up to. Peacemaker wants to be seen as a hero, as a good guy, but of course his primary skill is killing people. And you can argue about whether or not superheroes should kill, but in general, that's the thing he's known for. Not his ethics, not the people he saved, not his strategic mind or cunning moves to outmaneuver his enemy, just as a maniac who kills people. And that makes him a villain. And John Cena can pull it off, though I personally think James Gunn is leaning a little too into the comedic for these bits, especially when his crying is interrupted by Vigilante, and the two go into a bit about Louis C.K. sexually harassing people instead of focusing on the plot or characters. It's not bad, it's just a comedy trick that James Gunn employs sometimes where characters will go off on tangents and non sequiturs. Anyway, Vigilante gets Peacemaker to open up and he admits how he's feeling like he's not meant for any grand purpose, but to just be a monster. Vigilante tries to make him feel better.
When I find out someone murdered an innocent person, or sold somebody heroin, or did some graffiti.
I think this is how we all expected Alec of the Tandy Computer Whiz Kids to turn out, frankly. But yeah, he asks Peacemaker if he thinks that when he kills people that it gives him pleasure.
No.
Well, it does.
So, in the comics, Adrian Chase, eventually so conflicted and mentally unstable as a result of all the violence and murder he committed, shot himself. I don't know, I'm not really an Adrian Chase fan or anything, it just feels kind of disrespectful to turn him into a kill-happy weirdo.
Now, do I sound like a fucking maniac?
Is this the human condition of madness, leader? It is.
While Vigilante helps Peacemaker feel better by them shooting and blowing up some appliances, Leota bribes the couple who Peacemaker had tied up. They identify his dad as the intruder instead, and he's quickly arrested. Unfortunately, a conversation Leota had with Harcourt convinces her that she should encourage Kia to leave so she's not in danger given the nature of their work. And then Peacemaker and Vigilante have a threesome with the woman from the apartment. Hope she at least broke up with her boyfriend first. They didn't seem like a happy couple anyway, but still. It seems Peacemaker never turned in the weird device he found, and when he presses down one of the symbols, it turns into a tiny spaceship. Damn Helmicrons. And so our episode ends with Peacemaker's dad, Augie, ending up in jail to await trial. And a bunch of inmates kneel before him and do a little Nazi salute, proclaiming, "All hail the White Dragon," a reference to a lesser-known neo-Nazi supervillain whom Peacemaker's dad was not originally. But his dad was a Nazi in the comics, so close enough. These episodes are pretty good. I admit, I'm not super gelling with it after these first two episodes. Not because they're awful or anything like that, but some of the styles of humor used wear themselves out for me. I don't like secondhand embarrassment, and there are several moments of that throughout these 2 episodes. I left out a lot of jokes in this, but as a follow-up to the Suicide Squad, I like that it expands Peacemaker's character and actually shows his regrets. He worked as an antagonist in the movie, but here we need to be shown a more sympathetic side and aspects to him to make me want to like him, which I think this overall succeeds in doing, despite his douchier or offbeat moments. I love when the Argus team first recruits him, and it's clear he doesn't really want to kill anyone anymore. He's not super tortured about it, but he has enough self-awareness to recognize, wow, this is actually kind of messed up. And of course, when he has his breakdown in his trailer, where he sees that his attitude pushes people away just as much as the rest of the team are being jerks to him. There isn't a lot of action in these 2 episodes, but what we do get is fun, and the escape from the apartment was pretty entertaining. Plus, the appliance shooting sequence has debris, and debris in action scenes goes a long way. Not a bad start to the series. We've got a lot of Patreon-sponsored episodes that were supposed to be done months ago, so if you thought this was a bit out of my wheelhouse for reviews, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Next time, an episode of the soap opera Guiding Light.
You ever been shot at?
No. Hello, my friends. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon, buy merch from the store envy link in the description, or check out the t-shirts available from Teespring. Thanks for watching.